year, Salem Rotary Club. It's good to see all your faces. Let's start, Jessica, with the Pledge of Allegiance. We able to cue that up? All righty. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, Bruce, you're up for the invocation and words of inspiration for us.
Okay, well, thank you very much, President Sue, and good afternoon, everybody. Always great to see and join our fellow Rotarians together for another great program. So please join me in a moment of prayer and reflection according to your faith. Lord, we come together as Rotarians, grateful for the blessings on us, our family, and our community. Thank you for health, our families, for Rotary, and for this special part of this world that we call home. Thank you for our freedoms here in this country. Thank you for the people in this area coming together to support those struggling with this current health crisis. I also wish to express gratitude for this time here and in this country to reflect on injustices throughout our society to people of color, and for the opportunity that we have to address those issues. And as our program today will look to build bridges of social justice in Salem, but also our state and our country. Please bless today's program and our time together. Amen.
Thank you, Past President Bruce. I appreciate that. So we have some guests today. I'm going to scan for my guest, but Linda, you said you had some guests here today.
Yes, I have two guests with us today. They were both on the board with me for Salem Leadership Foundation and decided to tune in to hear DJ talk today. Nancy Marshall, and I don't know, Nancy, if I saw your picture or not, but I saw you were here. Nancy is, there she is, is retired HR director from Corbin University, and she's president-elect for Salem Leadership Foundation. So I'm glad she's here today. And then I have Kurt Whitman, and he is he says the friendly banker, relationship manager with Northwest Farm Credit, and he's our treasurer for Salem Leadership Foundation Board. So welcome to both of you.
Great.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. I don't see my guest, Connor Wrighton with Northwest Natural, had planned to join us, but I don't see him scrolling through. Did anyone else have a guest that they wanted to introduce? Linda was the only one that mentioned. Scanning. I don't see anybody's hand up. All right. Well, then we'll move on. So I didn't see any visiting Rotarians, but I'm not seeing hands. So we'll move on from that. My scanning abilities, clicking abilities are going to improve over the months, right, while we're doing this. So Brenna, we'll go to bell ringers.
Sure, happy to. We have 4 bell ringers today, so if you have one in your heart of hearts that you would love me to share, or if you want to share it, please either raise your hand once I button up these 4, or do something to get attention and we'll make it happen. So the first one is from John McCauley. John is ringing the bell, but not just any bell, a special anniversary bell. On August 4th, 1973, John McCauley and Julie Colburn started down the matrimonial road. Through curbs, hills, bumps, and long, smooth straightaways, the 47-year ride has been a joyous adventure. Ring the bell. Congratulations. Patrick Vance. Will you please stay seated or stand or do whatever you want in your own home. Patrick Vance is ringing the bell for Bridgeway Recovery Services, the professional and support staffs of Bridgeway's residential and outpatient addiction and recovery services, including the Rolling Bridgeway Cafe, were recently recognized as Best of the Valley 2020 winners. kudos to the folks at Bridgeway and the Rotarian Tim Murphy for the quality of the services that they deliver, the community partnerships they foster, and the individuals and families whose lives they continue to impact every day throughout the year. Ring the bell. Iria Nishimura would like to ring the bell for the following. The 8th annual Willamette Valley Hospice's Walk and Wag event has gone virtual. Beginning August 1st, participants may begin registering online to participate in Walk and Wag Unleashed. The race goes live on August 9th and ends September 16th. Participants can walk, run, paddle, or earn footsteps through positive actions that support the well-being of people and animals in your neighborhood. Start a team or go solo and have fun supporting our Pet Peace of Mind program and our bereavement programs. Prizes will be awarded for different contests, large team, goals made, funds raised, and more. For more information or to register, go to WillametteValleyHospice.org and check out their calendar. I'll post the link. Oh, no, somebody else did. I'll post the link in the chat and you can check it out. So the final bell ringer I have in front of me is from our own President Sue Bloom and her colleague Sherry Patterson. They are ringing the bell for an opportunity that they have on their executive team at the club. Their longtime Chief Development Officer is moving to Mountain West Philanthropy as their new corporate giving officer. If you know of anyone experienced, dynamic individual who may qualify and have a big heart for youth, please point them to Sue, Sherry, or the club's website. Ring the bell. And I see Linda Bednars has her hand up. If you want to unmute yourself.
Actually, it's Warren that's ringing the bell, a sad bell for those people in Beirut, the hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless now, those that have been killed, those unfound, tremendous sadness that we have with that. And I really want to rejoice with the country comes together.
Or hope the country comes together for Lebanon.
Yeah. So ring the bell.
Thank you, Warren. Ron Kellerman.
Well, I'm ringing the bell today for my first grandchild. She's turning 5 months this weekend. And finally, she was born March 15th. Her mom and dad rented a B&B somewhere on the outskirts of London in the Cotswolds. And this is the first time this kid has seen other adults and cows and sheep and gone on a 4-mile hike and all that other stuff. So hopefully we'll get to see her soon. And if I can indulge you, maybe I could just quickly share a picture. I don't know how to do that, but is there a way where I could upload a quick picture?
You can send it to me and I can try to share it on the screen.
Well, that's okay then. You've seen it. You know what she looks like.
She's cute. It checks out. The story checks out. Very cute. Thank you, Ron. Ring the bell. I think that might be it, unless anybody has anything else. Back to you, Sue.
Great, thank you, Brenda. So don't have any club announcements today, but Howard Bauman with our International Service Committee wanted to provide us all a quick update on our international service work. So Howard, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Sue. Yeah, I'm Howard Bauman, and I've been chair of the International Service Committee for, I believe, the last 8 or 9 years. Our committee typically meets on the second Wednesday of each month, right, just before our regular noon meeting. Although, like many of the other club committees, our committee has certainly slowed down a bit since March. Our main focus since going back to 2009 has been Haiti. And we've had a series of very successful district and global grants And actually, we're hoping to start a 4th global grant in Haiti this year, if at all possible. We got our start in Haiti thanks to the early and very ongoing efforts of committee members Cynthia Witham and Bo Nylene. And at this time, I would say Haiti's in big doo-doo. Along with their COVID-19 problems, they're dealing with serious, I mean, very serious political unrest. Diesel fuel is short, frequent electrical grid outages. And now, to boot, they're entering hurricane season. But despite all this, I would have to say that over this last year, we've had a very successful year, at least until things start slowing down in March. As a background in Haiti, I'm sure all of you might not be aware that we've constructed a total of 17 wells and 4 community latrines since 2009. And one of those wells, interestingly, for the first time is now providing consistently clean water to their regional hospital, which serves a population of over 250,000 people. This year, God willing, we'd like to take on another total $100,000 global grant to add another 6 wells and 2 more community latrines. With the onset of the pandemic, I can tell you some other things that we've been doing. Rotary International created a COVID-19 disaster relief plan, and our committee elected to donate our remaining budget funds to that effort. We donated $2,500 to our favorite Rotary Club in Haiti. That's the Hinch Nord Club, which we've been working with for years, which had already started a food distribution project to help get food to needy families and orphanages in Hinch and surrounding villages. We donated $1,000 to local pediatrician, Dr. Jim Lace's charity in Tanzania. This is a HIV orphanage that he started several years ago. The money that is being donated is being used to purchase sewing machines to make face masks in Tanzania. And the nice thing about this project is that local tailors have been volunteering their time to provide training to the older students in the orphanage, to giving them, shall we say, career skills that they might be able to use later on in their life. Finally, we've been helping a lot of other clubs in the district in their projects. And this is because one of our goals of our committee has been to encourage and to help other district clubs get involved internationally like we are. To that end, then, we've helped several clubs. I'll just run through that rapidly. For instance, we partnered with the Tiger Rotary with its Guatemala Stoves project. Newburgh Noon has 2 global grants in Nepal that we've been helping with. One is a medical ambulance and dispatch project. The other is a peace project aimed at women-related violence in Nepal. Portland has a water and sanitation project in Cambodia, Seaside, a high school scholarship program in Kenya, and we have a women's farmer project in Ghana, thanks to the efforts of our committee member, Marilyn Schuster. And what's interesting has been that through the years, what we've noticed is that the very clubs that we're helping are the ones that come to our assistance as well. For instance, this last year, 11 of our district clubs donated to our Haiti water and sanitation project. We're really making it all happen. So our club can be very proud of what we've accomplished over this last year, and I thank all of you for that.
Any quick questions for Howard before we let him loose? Oh, Ron has a question.
Not a question, but a last minute bell ringer for Howard and his leadership of this committee over the last 9 years. He's done a phenomenal job, and I really admire what he's done, and I think we should all give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Howard, to you and your leadership and your committee. It just sounds like you really are doing some amazing things on behalf of Rotary. So thank you so much. And thanks for sharing. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Linda Bednars to introduce DJ, our presenter today. So Linda.
Right. All right. Hello, everyone. Fellow Rotarians and President Sue. It's good to see everybody, even if it is virtual. I'm pleased today to introduce my friend DJ Vincent. I've known DJ for, I think, about 8 years since I've been on the board for Salem Leadership Foundation. He's been the South Salem Lightning Rod, which if you want to define what that is, you can ask him. But his job has been to do a lot of wonderful community connections. You'll hear about them. He's been there since 2008, and currently he also serves as the Deputy Director for SLF. DJ has been instrumental in developing several programs around the community, focusing on homeless, such as the Church at the Park near Cascade Gateway Park and the Salem Warming Network and a lot of the homeless initiatives around town. He also has co-chaired the South Salem Community Connect, which is a community partnership team that does small grants for the neighborhoods in South Salem. And he's become a leader in the last few years in a Leadership Foundation national program called Street Psalms. Has even done some travel nationally to Dominican Republic for this work and brings a lot of that back to our community as well. He's also devoted to youth, has done a lot of after school programming at like Leslie Middle School, and he's been on the board for Isaac's House. This is just a small sampling of his work. And more recently, the reason I asked him about doing a program for us is that he's been working on building a bridging cohort of leaders in Salem who are focused on racial and social justice. And this actually started before all the current issues that have been kind of facing the nation, because in February, he was instrumental in bringing Ben McBride, who is a phenomenal trainer, person bridging between the Black community in California and law enforcement, who's doing a lot of trainings. DJ was instrumental in bringing Ben McBride to Salem in February. And I was privileged to be able to attend one of those trainings. And since then, the DJ and some other staff at SLF have been facilitating a bridging cohort on about a monthly basis, even more frequently recently, to bring community leaders together on these issues. And so he's going to share with us today some of what's been coming up from that and some of the background with this. And if you noticed in the program information, I love his challenge to us with his title of How We Can Become Leaders Who Practice Bridging Differences and Create Belonging in the Salem Community. So I'd like to have you please give a good Rotary virtual welcome to DJ Vincent.
Well, it is such an honor to be invited to this group today. There are so many of you who are great friends and partners, and yet I do see folks on the call that I haven't met yet. And so even as I start this, I don't want to take for granted just making sure to kind of set myself in the context of joining the beautiful and good work of the Salem Leadership Foundation. And I've been working with them the past 10 years. And their mission and vision is to see Salem Kaiser become the healthiest community in Oregon. You know, truly this city of shalom that we all want to be a part of. And we do that through engaging both the leaders of faith and the leaders of goodwill, so that we can work more beautifully together. And so as I go to this next slide, this gives you an idea of how does SLF end up engaging racial reconciliation and these questions. So we believe what drives change in our community is leaders. And so we spend all our time and our strategy around building trusting relationships with the leaders in every sector, principals, nonprofit leaders, pastors, the folks who are in the neighborhoods doing the good work. Then we seek to build up their capacity. And we have done that through trainings around their leadership, around outward mindset, training cohorts connected to poverty. That's a huge passion of mine. But we had 3 years ago in our strategic plan, we realized we wanted to train more around diversity, around race, around representation. And so we started first with ourselves and reading more and going to more trainings as an SLF team. Then we started wanting to extend that to our partners and the rest of the community. And that's how we got to a learning cohort around racial bridging. And then our third function is to bring together joint initiatives. And I hope most of you on the call have experienced the fruit of some joint initiative table that we are trying to, again, not run, but gather and give energy to. Right now, we're honored to be gathering a table around youth service providers, which Sue is a key person at that table, and we're so thankful for her. And right now, our Churches as Neighborhood Centers meeting, which is a joint initiative of bringing our community churches together, I just left a call with 65 faith partners hearing about this youth collaborative. We do joint initiatives around homelessness and refugees. But let me continue to drive into the topic for today, which is the journey that we're all now being invited to be on, which is how can we take the next steps around our engagement as people, organizations, and as a Salem community around social justice and racial reconciliation. And when I first met Ben McBride, I was on my own training journey and meeting him in Tacoma. And this was how he opened his session. He said, I know you're all in the room because you're leaders. And leaders often want to know, what can we do? What can we do to make this better? What are our next steps? Tell us what to do. And he said, you know, the best question you can be asking yourself is, who do I need to become? What is it that I need to become to meet the challenges of this time? And so that has been, as Linda mentioned, one of the driving forces around this learning cohort is, who do the leaders in our community need to become, whether they're in law enforcement, juvenile justice, pastors, nonprofit leaders, people from the school district. Who do we need to become to have these conversations? I'm going to dive into just a really practical tool that we've been sitting with the past few weeks and months that help us maybe get new eyes to see the leaders we already are and the other perspectives in our community. Because the reality is, as people, we have a certain perspective. And the only way to get the perspective of the community is to hear from other people who have a different perspective. So I want to talk about a bridging window today and 4 different perspectives that I believe impact almost every table, every system, every challenge that we're trying to meet here in Salem right now. And I know I'm talking to a group of leaders and people who have influence and people who also are interested in bridging difference. So the first perspective in this window is those who have power. And in this window, power is not a bad word. The people who have power are the people at the table and in the system who are making meaning, who are creating the space, who have, you know, set the rules for good many times, but not always. So I want to give you some examples. These resources are from a variety of places. This one, again, I want to give credit, is from the Millen Institute. And so these are descriptors of different types of power. So traditional power is the type that a manager and executive have. Even you could think as simple as, this is the power as a parent I have power in that relationship. Expert power is when we have education. Many times, because I have a master's degree, I have knowledge that impacts the power that I have in a given situation I'm in. Then there's the power of reward. I immediately go to thinking about coaching baseball, coaching basketball. You have the power to give praise, the power to reward. Then there's this coercive power. It exists. If you're the boss, you can reduce someone's ability to work. You can change their system. Even thinking about, as of many times I'm leading volunteers, and I can ask people not to volunteer anymore. That is power that is making meaning for the group and in other people's lives. There's information power. Many of us, we want to be informed about what's the latest guidelines for COVID. What's happening in our community. When you have the right information, you have power. We're very aware of this. This is kind of networking power, the power of relationship with other people, of people who are donors, of people who are your customers. We can recognize this charismatic power, those who have a sense of command, those who garner our attention. And then there is moral power, which, coming to this group, as a pastor, I believe in, the power of those who have integrity and, who make meaning by, helping us define what is right and good action. You can see over on the left there that, these powers can be used to make good meaning. They can also be abused when you have power in, this hot button area of how we've used power when it comes to race. You can see in the scenario being presented that there was coercive power used, that there was power connecting to someone else, and then they used traditional power. Again, if we were in the Bridging Cohort right now, we would break out and we would talk about which type of power most connected to you. Where do you see this power at work in your own life? Who in your life is using their power to make meaning in the situations that you're in? But the next view in the window, you may feel in some situations that you're not the person with the power. Privilege is a hot button word right now. So I want to define privilege as any unearned benefit or advantage one receives in society by nature of just their identity. So the people with power are making meaning, and that meaning benefits other people. And sometimes, you didn't have to do anything to receive that benefit. I have so many benefits, financially, how I've been treated. As a Christian pastor, I get the benefit of being in the majority and having other people who share my religion making a lot of decisions, making a lot of meaning in my community. Identifying in gender through no power of my own as a male, I have, certain benefits that just come my way. As a person who majority sexual orientation, there's all these ways that people have made meaning and given me privileges that I didn't even, I didn't have to use power to create those. In this area of ability, when I came through school, I had the ability to play sports, and a bunch of people used their power to create a bunch of privilege and benefit for me just because I could play sports. I got to travel. I got to be a part of a great group of people. The school was creating all these avenues of support for me. So privilege can be such a hot button word, but we have to recognize so many people at the table, so many people in our community benefit from the good power of others, and that's just a privilege. And I think, again, the ability of a bridger, which we'll talk about, to name and be self-aware about our privileges can help us get a full community perspective. I so rarely work in a presentation setting in one way with a lot of people just listening and not engaging. So, there'll probably be times to lean in and with maybe a few specific questions. So if you put those in the chat, since I'm presenting, maybe Linda will be able to pull some of those out if some of this really is resonating with you, or some of it is like, oh, I don't know if I buy what you're saying and I need more context on that. But I'll go to the next place in the window, and that is that in each system, in each area of our community, there are people who are prevented from being at the table, prevented from leadership. There are, sad histories in our country, and I'll just go right to the heart of where I live, in the church, where there's been so many places and in leadership where women were prevented from using their voice. We live in a country where there were times when women were prevented from voting. We live in faith traditions where people of color were prevented from leadership at times. And in our city of Salem, SLF does, history tours, which help us understand, we were a hotbed of the Klan during its resurgence. And, there were the city of Salem brochures that advertised that we were 99.1% white and that Native Americans hadn't been in town for 30 years. And, that we didn't have Black people. That is an issue of prevention. You don't have, a struggle if you just prevent, diversity and people from even being in your midst. And so one of the things we do at SLF is this practice of intentional hospitality. So our first step is we don't want to be afraid to go and be a guest at any table, seat, or place of power, whether that has to do with the police or the city council or the business community. We want to go and listen and understand the perspective, be a guest. But then we want to act as table setters, as hosts, looking to especially welcome people who seem to be maybe talked about at the table, on the table, but they're not at the table, to represent their needs, to represent why they haven't been at the table. One of the things my friend Ben McBride often talks about is the people who are closest to the pain that we see in our community are actually the people closest to the best solutions as well. And too many times in our community problem solving, we're having small meetings, closed door meetings about how to solve other people's problems and how to fix things for those people, or, you know, to just make it better for some people. And we at SLF believe that is an area of people being prevented from being a part of their own solutions and prevented from being a part of the table. And then there is this posture we want to have of table serving, where we aren't there to take power over. We are there to serve. We're there to serve our community. We're there to serve other nonprofits. And again, that can be a helpful posture to think about. So then I want to go to this last place, and that is the persecuted are those in a system who feel like they're the scapegoat. They are, you know, the family problem. Oftentimes teenagers, you know, they in that system, they feel persecuted. You know, when a group is singled out, that, you know, that they're the cause of, you know, the violence in our community. They're a drain on our system. This is what we mean by those who are in this persecuted category. And I want to keep moving. Obviously, we could go deep on any four of these. So all of us, in whatever situation we walk into, it can be this healthy sense of awareness to begin to realize, oh, do I hold a lot of power at this table? Oh, is this a system where I get a lot of privileges? Or is this, you know, am I hitting this system where I feel persecuted all the time? The folks in each area have the opportunity of what we call widening their circle of concern. And so we've been talking as a bridging cohort, who are the people not like us? Who are the people that represent a different point of view? And that point of view may be a real struggle for us, but coming to the middle and hearing that is an act of widening our circle of human concern. That in the outward mindset language, you know, they matter like I matter, even if I think or feel differently than they do. Then the goal, what has happened too much in human history is, and we see it, I'll tell you the truth, we see it a lot right now with young, white men and women. They are recognizing and naming some of their privilege, and they're going to the middle to hear from the prevented and the persecuted, and they're taking up, you know, that cause. But then they are creating basically this new place that they're standing, and they're scapegoating then the place that they just came from, and shouting in a sometimes, you know, violent way at the powerful and the privileged, when the real challenge of bridge building is the movement in between the two groups, that sharing this new concern you have, sharing the meaning that you are creating in the middle with the folks who were just in the same perspective as you. The folks who, you know, a week ago had the same awareness you did about their privilege, or the same awareness you did about their power. So that is a high area of concern for us at SLF, is that we don't create new scapegoats, and that no one in this window should be seen as the problem, but all of us have opportunities to create belonging and to find new ways to make meaning. So I'm going to give a few specific, action steps. Then I want to go into as much dialogue as Linda sees as appropriate about, what SLF actually does with this, or questions that folks would have. So the 5 dimensions of reconciliation. First of all, if we don't have an awareness of our history, then we can make some pretty drastic assumptions and judgments about what other people are feeling, people of color. And so the first step is your own personal journey of historical awareness of what people of color have experienced and why they might be frustrated in this time, and coming from a perspective of either being prevented or persecuted. The step 2, race relations. All Americans understand the value, rights, and experiences of people of color, which result in relationships based on trust and respect that a nation and a nation free of racism. So the second step is interpersonal. So the first step is personal awareness. The second step is interpersonal, where you're building real relationships, understanding the perspective and the pain and what it looks like to make meaning with a new person. The third step, equality and equity conversations. So this is where organizationally and kind of looking organizationally to see, does our organization represent equity for people of color? And that is hard work. But it's all part of the process of a full reconciliation. And then you've got this institutional integrity, and people are pushing hard on that right now, right? They want to see the police have institutional integrity. And that can only happen as everybody in the window comes with a greater level of understanding, with relationships with real people that they're trying to work this out with, and then with their own organization willing to join in a systemic change. And then we come to this place of, the new unity that we want to have. And this reconciliation process cannot happen overnight. And, it's not going to be a fast process. And it's going to require bridging across difference. And this is, again, where SLF, we're honored to have Deputy Chief Skip Miller on our board. And, I've done sit downs with the chief during this racial reconciliation time. We're honored to have relationship with the coalition of churches and pastors of color, and to have a great relationship with, Greg Simpson, who's, putting himself forward as, kind of the local leader for, Black Lives Matter kind of social justice efforts. We need the relationship with both if we're going to have a full community perspective on how we move to greater unity and peace as a group. So I will stop monologuing, and I hope that was value added for everybody. I hope it gives a picture of the kind of work that we're trying to do, and an example of kind of a go deep type tool that would be maybe expanding your own perspective and helping you as a bridge builder in your family, neighborhood, or organization. So where should we go from here, Linda?
Am I unmuted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to see some questions. If we have some questions, if people want to raise their hand. I would ask one thing, DJ, is could you share a little bit of more specific logistics if people are interested in participating in the Bridging Cohort, or how people could be involved in this process a little more?
Yes. So we had, you know, a very tidy plan with the Bridging Cohort where we had brought Ben McBride in, who has worked with the Oakland Police Department and several other police departments around the country, and who has worked with faith leaders, you know, for the past 5 years. And, you know, he brought a great training weekend, and then he shared that he could provide us with a curriculum and Zoom check-ins. And then we had kind of a state of national emergency. And he is currently doing 2 national trainings a week, broadcast to thousands of people. So that plan has been put aside, and essentially I synthesize information that I'm learning over the past month and then connect it to our Salem context in this Bridging Cohort. The Bridging Cohort meets every second Monday at 3:30 p.m. and the table is open. And it's been an honor to have, you know, again, each sector of our community is currently represented to help us see these different perspectives and begin to, you know, make meaning and figure out how we can be better bridge builders. And so I can share that invite and information through Linda.
Okay, DJ, there is a question. Sue had actually asked if you could share how you are embedded with Outward Mindset. We did have a program from Chris earlier this year about this, and I think it's a great tie-in.
Absolutely. Outward Mindset, I couldn't share enough about it. It is a huge area of personal and family transformation for me. I stumbled upon the book, Anatomy of Peace. Then my wife and I read it together. Then I went to the Outward Mindset training, and I became, you know, an Outward Mindset evangelist with sharing it with my extended family and with our SLF organization. Every staff meeting, we pull out, you know, an outward mindset thought that, you know, a practice that we want to develop more and more. I had the honor of doing the outward leadership training, which is specifically for organizational leaders to look at, you know, how can you embed this in your hiring practices, in how you do, you know, your evaluations. How do you move from, you know, the tendency all of us have to be inward at time and get ours and self-protect, and how do we move to, you know, everybody matters as much as we matter. And I think, you know, Sue's journey and my journey and other people in the community, that's probably why we have, you know, this Salem Youth Collaborative, is because everyone is thinking, not how can I protect just my organization, but how can we serve every youth in our community? We have to get more outward focused.
Any other thoughts or comments from the group?
Sure, I had a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, DJ. Thank you so much for being here. Our paths continue to cross, my friend. Thank you so much for all the work that you are doing at Church of the Park and all these other amazing endeavors that you're a part of. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I really appreciate you bringing up some subjects that I think can cause some natural discomfort. And, you know, for example, I really appreciate your discussion of privilege, because that is something that the first time that I heard the discussion of privilege years ago, as I was involved in some other community endeavors, you know, I had an initial reaction to it where I pushed back on it. And I thought, wait a minute, how can I be privileged? I've worked so hard to get where I am today. And I think that it is possible now, as I undergo my own journey, as I understand it, it's entirely possible to be both privileged and to be an extremely hardworking person at the same time. And sometimes part of it's just not recognizing the little advantages that come along the way. So I appreciate you discussing that topic, because I think sometimes it can be taboo in some circles. I'm kind of curious, as that conversation has permeated other groups, I mean, have other folks had some reactions to it that weren't great? And, you know, as us, now that we are all leaders here at this room, you know, how can we encourage folks to not just immediately push back when you hear the term privilege, but to really open your heart, open your mind, and consider the possibility that there is some real evidence-based data behind that? Do you have any words of wisdom for us on navigating these taboo topics?
Yes. One of the things that we spent the whole last cohort meeting just talking about how can we talk about privilege in a more productive and civil way. And I hope that what you heard from me today was an example of that. I think if you can set it in a larger context of saying, you know, I think, you know, I have privilege because of someone else's, you know, good action to, you know, try to create benefit for a neighborhood, for a school, and yet it had this unintended consequence sometimes, or it had this consequence on this other group of people. You know, if you can set the word privilege in a larger context, and I find, you know, with most things, when you're humble in talking about your own sense of privilege first, people don't feel like you're just trying to judge them. Or again, I think the word privilege or white privilege can be used as a scapegoating tool to try to throw people in a corner and try to, you know, label and name people instead of trying to draw them to the center to make meaning. So that's where outward mindset comes in. Am I talking about privilege so that I can draw them to the center with a persecuted or prevented person to have a good relationship? Or am I talking about privilege to drive them away? And then I know, you know, that's an inward action, and that's an action that is just trying to expedite a process.
We have time for one more question. Ron?
Yes, thank you. This is very interesting. What can we as Rotarians, and specifically in our Rotary Club, do to move this conversation forward and try and implement some of the mindset that you've outlined for us? Do we have kind of a club assembly or two, or do we have a moment every week? What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I don't want to come across too heavy about understanding the context of, you know, what the current assets and perspectives of Rotary could be, but I do think, you know, Rotary is a powerful force in our community for good, and you're making meaning. And lots of people, for instance, you know, those who have had the polio have been privileged, that these people with power are doing these great things to help them. And so what does that look like when Rotary is enacting power to create an incredible downtown amphitheater? There's tons of people who are going to be privileged to use that don't even realize, you know, the great benefit, and to think through, you know, is the way we're doing this, is anybody feeling persecuted? Is anybody feeling prevented? Have we heard their perspectives, or are we just running over it because we have the power?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, DJ. That was really interesting in it, and opening up to Ron's point, some food for thought, some things that we can do as Rotarians to move this effort forward. So appreciate you coming here today and sharing not just your bridging project, but also all the great work that you and Salem Leadership Foundation are doing in our community. I remember I first met you when you were just getting started at Leslie as a lightning rod. That was like a really long time ago. Now look, I had a little flashback of the gym at Leslie. So doing great work, and I really appreciate it. We all do. Linda, thank you for being our program chair today. We appreciate it very much. Next week, we have a program on the Peace Garden that is at the Oregon State Penitentiary, and Pam Wasson will be our program chair. So that'll be real interesting, as always. So with that, meeting is adjourned. You guys all take care, be well, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful weather. So we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right.